Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications. Patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is home ownership consultant Ross Kay from the wealthyhomeowner.ca, Canada's authority on home ownership. Welcome back to the show, Ross.
And thanks for having me back on, Jim.
Ross, I know you weren't expecting this, but I saw this headline in the Financial Post today. It said, there's never been a better time to get into Canadian real estate. But then in really tiny print at the bottom of the article said, the paper gets a commission for sales made on their links to the story. Does that mean this story's been bought? Is this really the best time ever to buy real estate in Canada? Is that a responsible headline?
It's probably the second worst time. The worst time, of course, was 1989. So this is the second worst time that it would be to buy real estate in Canada. And the problem that we have about this time, Jim, is that back in 1989, we had 13 degrees of interest, mortgage interest, to lop off, and we only have 2 today. So, you know, even for me to say that 1989 was the worst, it was the worst because inflation was going to hack off a whole bunch of your house price gain in the next couple of years, because anyone who studies housing understands that inflation is not switched off overnight. It's an ocean liner. You don't realize how fast you're getting it going because you keep throwing more and more fuel into the engine. The engine takes a while to get up steam. You still think the engine's not going fast enough, so you throw more and more fuel into the engine. Before you know it, you're at the speed you wanted to be at, but then there's a problem. The engine is already filled up with all this fuel. You've got to wait for all this fuel to burn off before it even starts to slow down again. And the problem you have, Jim, is all your passengers, they're getting used to this speed. They're getting used to this. And then the second you start to slow down, they wonder what the heck's going on. They wonder if they're going to crash. Well, maybe we're talking about the Titanic after all.
Ross, Robert from Calgary asks, house prices in Calgary are up 8% this year, and I'm wondering if we should act now. Our realtor says sales will be up 50% in November versus last November.
Robert. Okay, so here's how it goes, Robert. As I've said in the show now for a year about Calgary, it is the best housing market for anyone who wants to study the science of housing markets. They should be looking at that market. So, yes, you should be expecting your sales to be up around 750 units in October. Those extra sales should also be inflating the average price this specific month. Now, I say that, Robert, because if you go back and check August sales, and you check July sales, and then you also check September sales, and then you check October sales, you're going to find that some kind of an aggregate in each of those months is going to report over 700 extra sales. Forget the percentage stuff. Forget it. All you're looking at is sales. Because if 700 new first-time buyers enter the market in 1 month, your average price will drop. The following month, if the owners of the homes those first-time buyers bought, you're going to have record 700 extra sales year over year, and you're going to record an increase in price month over month. And then the third month, you should be expecting to see 700 extra sales, but those sales will be distributed to higher priced homes. driving the average price up higher. Calgary. Let me open my Calgary spreadsheet right here, and I'll tell you how we measure housing markets, Robert, in Calgary, and this is how we measure it. The median home in Calgary is only $380,000. It is a beautiful median home that any home buyer in Vancouver, Toronto, or even Burlington would give their eye teeth to own. It is a beautiful little single detached home of around 1,243 square feet. Let's round it up to 1,250. It has a one-car garage, and it's sitting on a 282 square meter lot. Wow, that's amazing, Ross. How do you know that? How do you know that that's what the median home in Calgary looks like? Well, it's because our sample size, Robert, is huge. You can look at the little tiny sample size that your local MLS system uses each month, but we use a huge sample size. And that's what I'm talking about. So then you're going to see, though, this month, Robert, the magic of organized real estate happening in Calgary once again. But you need to know where to look. So here is where you need to look. If you look at what the median purchase price is, which they'll call the median price. And what that's describing is the home, the median home, that the group of home buyers active in that market in November are buying. So when I pull up what has happened so far in Calgary, this is as of Saturday. So as of Saturday, here is what the median home a home buyer was buying in November looked like in Calgary. It was 1,374 square feet. The median home buyer was buying a home 10% bigger than what the median home actually is. Interesting. Didn't we just say how this started, the 700 extra sales, 750 extra sales you're going to hear reported in Calgary this month actually started months ago, and that what we're seeing is more trade-up buyers are part of the distribution of acquisitions that goes on this month. We used to call this share of sales to make things easier for our listeners. Well, what we're saying is that house is at the median home, the middle home. 50 homes were smaller or cheaper than this. 50 homes were bigger or more expensive than this. We're talking about the middle house. We talk 101 Dalmatians, 101 houses, 50 below her, the middle one, 50 higher. Okay, that's how we discuss housing market. It's 10% bigger. So the median buyer is buying a home with 10% more square footage than what the actual median home has. Interesting. We would also tell you that the median home buyer in November was buying a 2-car garage, while the median home in Calgary has a 1-car garage. We would also tell you that the median lot size, amount of land that was being purchased in November, was 354 square meters, where the median home that exists in Calgary occupies 282 square meters. These are tradable homes. So this doesn't include government subsidized housing. This doesn't include your purpose-built rentals. These are the homes that actually can trade hands between one buyer from one owner to the next owner in a month. So what you're seeing is, Robert, a 23% increase in the size of land the buyer is acquiring over what the average size of land that exists for a home in Calgary. You're also seeing they're buying a 10% larger home, 10%. Now, in Calgary, the house-to-land value ratio, our proprietary calculation, shows a 66-33 ratio. The price that you pay for a home is going to be 66% house, 33% land. This ratio is different in every single city in Canada. It isn't the same in Vancouver. It's the polar opposite in Toronto, meaning your land value could be 66 in some certain parts of Canada, and your house value could only be 33%. But in Calgary, it's a 66 to 33 ratio. Interesting. So we're telling you that the median home in Calgary is worth $380,000. Okay. So we're telling you that the size of the building, the size of the home that is being purchased in November is 10% bigger than what the median home actually is. So that means you would expect the median price being paid by the buyers active in November to be $28,000 higher because of that. Or excuse me, $25,000 because of that. Excuse me, that's the house price side. No, I'm flying off the window here, guys. I'm just looking at a spreadsheet. The acquired to actual ratio for the land deviation, difference in land being acquired, is plus 28,000. Okay, so 28,000, 17% of the 33% of the $380,000 the median home is worth, $25,000. We also know that the garage has a value of about $12,000. Now, if you take 28 plus 25 plus 12, that comes up to $65,000. So that would have, based on that simple math, factual housing science math, you would say that the median home buyer in Calgary is buying a home that is worth $445,000, which is $65,000 more expensive, higher quality than what the actual median home is. And when you see the numbers get reported this month, Robert, that's what you're going to hear. You're not going to hear the big explanation of how your local MLS system creates house price illusion through median and average and benchmark prices. You're going to hear how they create house price illusion by telling you they're measuring the same home every month, which they never have in 70 years. It's always a different home. I have just gone through precisely how the median home that is being acquired in a month deviates from the actual median home that exists in the city of Calgary. I have just provided you detailed calculation, detailed percentages, detailed percentage changes that you, if you listen to this 2 or 3 times with a calculator and a sheet of paper, that you yourself can prove. The question you've got to ask, Robert, is if they are doing that this month of November, and I'm telling you that they did it every month for the last 70 years, why does CMHC have the average price of Calgary being the average home in Calgary being worth what the average price the local real estate board is telling them? Why do every house price chart in Canada published for the public to view show the average and median prices or benchmark prices, but they never describe how that price is being reached? Why don't your governments, why does Christina Freeland not being told that the median home buyer in Calgary in November was spending $65,000 more buying a $65,000 more expensive home than what the median home actually is? Now, we can do this every single month, which is why we have $100,000. Easily, we could offer $10 million. Makes no difference to us that house prices don't change, because they don't. You believe they change because your MLS system told you. Those extra 700-ish sales that are going to be reported in Calgary this month inflated the average price because the distribution of acquisition shifted towards trade-up sellers. They were buying a home $65,000 more expensive than what the median home actually is. They were paying $28,000 for a bigger land size. They're paying $25,000 more for a bigger house, and they're paying $12,000 more for the garage and maybe a few furnishings, brand new appliances, finished basement, something of that nature. But the total is $65,000. That's, Robert, what you have to understand. The identical home does not change 1 penny. No one can prove that they do. We can prove to the penny what the difference between what the median home being acquired in a month and the actual home that exists is.
We'll have more with Ross Kay right after this.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Ross Kay. Karen in Port Coquitlam, British Columbia, Port Coquitlam just outside of Vancouver, asks, I have a friend who is using the wealthy homeowner, and they're telling me that home buyers in 1990 were spending more of their income buying a home than similar buyers are spending this year. My friend seems convinced Mr. K is correct, and that other income to house price ratios are simply seeing things the way home buyers actually see it.
Yeah, so, Karen, okay, so you have to excuse the comment about right now. In other words, spending less now than what they were committing in 1989. Okay, so prior to 2018, okay, so from 1989 through till 2018, home buyers are always spending the exact same amount of their income on a house. This is not even a debatable fact. There are multi-millions of first-time acquisitions that have taken place over that period of time, and they are all purchased within the home trading infrastructure of Canada, and this infrastructure has not changed since 1989. Okay, I think, but when your friend is telling you that between 2018 and 2023 that the home buyers are spending less, that's a consequence of the mortgage qualification ratio, and it kind of skews it. So your friends may understand what I'm talking about because they have seen this shown to them, where you're probably not going to understand it. So I'm going to cut off the 2018 to 2021 discussion, and I will stick at 1989 to 2018. And this is what I would tell you. The average first-time buyer using high ratio mortgage finance in Canada to take their first step on the property ladder is committing between 8 and 10 years of their initial acquisition income to pay for that home. Let me say that again. Between 1989 and 2018, they're spending less from 2018 to 2021, by the way, folks. Okay? First-time buyers taking their first step on the property ladder using a CMHC high-ratio mortgage are committing 8 to 10 years of whatever money they were earning today on the day that they moved in to own that home. Now, we would also tell you that the goal is to reduce that below 8 times your income. Okay? So our goal, selling homes to first-time home buyers over the years, was always to try to reduce that below the 8 times income. The problem that we had was when we told first-time buyers, hey, do you understand, before you sign in the dotted line and we make $4,500 commission, do you understand that what you're signing means you're committing 8 to 10 years of your current income towards owning this home? Now, I can't tell you the number of times I had to pick people's jaws up off the floor when we told them that. But the beautiful thing about being a high-volume real estate agent is that you never have to lie to anybody. If your client doesn't like the truth that you're telling them, they can choose not to buy a home, or they can go to find someone else who's not going to tell them the truth. And this is how we were lucky enough to be able to approach the business. We didn't have to lie to make a sale. Tell them the facts, tell them the truth, let them go home and sleep on it, and if they were comfortable with the decision, they'd come back and they'd buy it from you. And then they would buy the next 3 or 4 homes in their lifetime from you as well. You had a client for life. They never left you because you told them the truth. But the industry wasn't built that way. So the number that we gave our clients, there was maybe a handful of real estate agents across Canada who ever gave their clients. Like we're talking less than 0.001% of all realtors would have been able to tell their clients the truth because they were afraid of losing a sale. We weren't. If you didn't want to buy the house, we'd just find somebody else who'd buy it. Made no difference to us. We sold everything that we listed anyway. This was a time when only 1 in 3 listings ever sold, which is, by the way, the majority of the housing market throughout history. About 60% of the listings fail to sell, and about 40% sell. That's the way it goes. And that's including the last 3 or 4 years, folks, because our context goes back from 1980 through till today. So what this person was telling you, Karen, your friend was telling you, they were telling you the truth. We were selling homes to young first-time buyers in 1989 and telling those buyers, look, you're going to spend normally about 10 times your income with the income that you're earning right now to cover the cost of this home. We would also tell them, but the beautiful thing about home ownership, the beautiful thing about it is that by the time you're paid off, you've quit paying on the home. I mean, you're still going to have maintenance and upkeep in that. But the time that your home is fully paid off, you can get every single penny back that you paid for it. Every single penny that you paid, you'll be able to get back. You just may have to wait another few years. That's all. So when we told them the truth, that it's going to cost them 8 to 10 years of their initial acquisition income to own a home, we also got to tell them, and because remember now, they trusted us now. They trusted us because we told them they were going to spend more money owning this house than every other real estate agent in our city would tell them. We told them this house is way more expensive than what CMHC, your local bank manager, your local mortgage broker, every other real estate agent in this city is going to tell you. We're going to tell you that it's going to cost you a lot more than that. And we have the data to prove it. They trusted us. So then when we told them, but don't worry, 25 years from now, you're going to get all your money back. Every single penny you paid, you're going to get it back. They trusted us that was going to be the truth too. If I had if I was in sales still, if I was still in sales, and if I was working with first-time buyers today, I would tell them, you're going to spend, under the current construct of the home trading market, 7 times your income. Whatever your income is today, you're going to spend 7 times that paying off this house. But I would also warn them, because of the way the market is constructed today, you're going to have to make an extra 1 or 2 trades during your lifetime, which is going to add to that discount you think you're getting right now versus a first-time buyer of 1989. I would also tell them that we can't count on as much compound annual growth rate in your house price because we are now starting at the peak of a market, and the length of time before we get to the trough and the next peak, I mean, we have no real way of understanding how that journey is going to, how long that journey is going to last. The last journey took technically 17 years. This journey could take 30 years or more. Nothing wrong with that. Okay, there's nothing wrong with making a home owning decision based on that. It just means that you have to be told the truth. And here's the truth, Karen. In 1989, every first-time buyer that our family was working with, when they were signing on the dotted line, we told them that they were committing 8 to 10 years of their current income to buy this home. If I was doing the same thing today, if I was doing the same thing in 2018, I would have been telling young first-time buyers, you're committing 8 to 10 years of your income to pay off this home. The difference is, in 1989, I would have guaranteed that they would have got all their money back. I don't know if I can guarantee you're going to get all your money back today, because it depends on how long you're going to remain in the housing market, how many steps you're going to have to take up the property ladder, whether you're going to stay in the same community or not. So my reference used to be one city, now it's every city in Canada. It used to be one province, now it's every province in Canada. Those answers are different for every single city, in the same way that our explanation on Calgary is different for every other municipality in Canada. And it's why this nonsense about income to house price ratio, about average sale price, benchmark price, median price, GDP to debt ratio, mortgage debt to income ratio, why all of those metrics are ludicrous. Just ask the young first-time buyers that we counseled in 1989 when we told them, you're going to commit 10 years of your income to paying for this home, how they feel today, because most of them are millionaires.
Equifax is suggesting a huge share of sales in Ontario, perhaps 25%, are going to investors. What do you think's going on there?
I think the Bank of Canada got conned by Equifax, who's trying to justify their credit scores versus other groups' credit scores. That's what I think, Jim. Look, folks, here's how it works. You tell me if I'm wrong. Listen, does this make common sense? The Smiths wake up in June of 2021, and their real estate agent tells them their house is worth $200,000 more. The Smiths have been looking out in cottage country now for the last 10 years, dreaming about buying a cottage home. Their dream, actually, is to spend their early retirement years living in cottage country. The Smiths decide that they'll go out and buy a cottage using the equity that they have in their existing home. When Equifax pulls up the land titles data, or Terranet pulls up the land titles data, it shows a single owner registered owning 2 homes. Oh, we're going to call them an investor. Well, I guess everybody that owns a cottage in Ontario who has 2 mortgages must be an investor. Wow. I wonder what percentage of the purchases I can get up or show from that number. I also know this. The Smiths wake up and their kids are arriving home from college or university with a degree, and they can't really afford to buy their first home. The Smiths say, don't worry about it. We will buy your first home for you, maybe a condo, and you can live there for the next 5 years, paying down the mortgage, and then 5 years from now, we will allow you to take title. The beautiful thing about you buying the condo today is that if house prices fall, which we believe they probably will, or they're going to remain flat sometime, we're not going to have to pay any capital gains when we transfer it into your name. Or, because we are your parents, we're going to give you that as an early inheritance where we don't pay capital gains anyway. This is the nonsense that the Bank of Canada just reported. They used another inexperienced review of housing market data that gets extrapolated into a myth that gets presented across the country as being a fact. Everybody who's listening to this right now, think about it. Did what I just say make common sense? If you were the Smiths and you found you were worth $200,000 more, or maybe 3, or maybe 1, would you do the same thing? Maybe the Smiths also traded up homes themselves. And because of the way the market was, they decided to buy first and sell second. So on the date of their closing, in the month that Equifax is running the data, that family shows up as owning 2 homes. When what actually is happening is they're going to spend the next 90 days moving into their new home from their old home, and their closing dates overlap by 90 days. Because they have so much money, because their home is worth $200,000 more, they can afford to spend or lose $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 carrying 2 homes for 3 months. Equifax tells the Bank of Canada, oh, no, those are greedy investors. If Equifax's story was true, folks, you have to look at the number of homes that were purchased in Ontario. Say, for the sake of the argument, we're hovering around 370,000, new and resale combined, which is what mortgage data reflects. 25% of that, for the sake of the matter, is around 80,000 units. Have we seen 80,000 brand new rentals come on the investor market for rent in the last year? No, those condos are not available for rent. Are they going to suggest that all of these purchases happened in the pre-sale market? Well, guess what, folks? Those are mortgages. That data doesn't exist on Terranet. That's a story they're telling you. They're telling you these are closed deals with mortgages in force. The Bank of Canada was conned by a report that was written by a group of people who don't understand how to read the data, who don't understand the overlap that takes place, who don't understand how people buy retirement homes, cottage properties for their kids, how it's got nothing to do with investing. If it was investing, there would be 80,000 brand new rentals on the market in the last year, and rental prices would have plummeted. None of that happened.
House prices have skyrocketed in smaller cities across Canada. Is that the result of a move to work from home now?
I don't know if it's necessarily a move from work from home. Work from home has allowed MLS systems, average price in smaller cities, to substantially inflate over the last 16 months. Now, let me explain to you this. Normally in a city like London, Ontario, okay? London, Ontario has brand new homes in their MLS. Their brand new home inventory is dominated. The single detached market dominates brand new single detached homes built in London. One of the few places left in Canada where single detached homes are still being built. Those houses in London because they're normally hard to sell, are listed by their local realtors. In Vaughan, those houses are never listed. In Toronto, those houses never appear in the MLS. In Burlington, for 40 years, those houses have never existed except for 91 and 92, where the builders couldn't sell them. Every other time, those houses were never included on your local MLS system. But in London, they always have been. Now imagine, normally, for that $600,000 house to sell, you had a $200,000 house, a $400,000 house, and the owner of the house that sold for $400,000 bought the brand new $600,000 house. The average price for those three properties was $400,000. When the buyer comes from outside of London and purchases a $600,000 house, the average price is $600,000 or $200,000 more. That's right, folks, 50% higher in the example I just gave you. Now, obviously, there's not enough brand new homes and out-of-town buyers that 50% of the sales are going to be brand new, expensive homes on the MLS system. But it's certainly enough to get you your 20 or 30% year-over-year gain. So the real reason prices have skyrocketed is because your local realtors, in my example, LSTAR, the London St. Thomas Association of Realtors, are clueless to what's happening in their MLS system because most of the old brokers are all now retired. There were no guys young enough like I was when I started in the market back in the 80s. So you get trained by a pro like my dad or the brokers that used to exist back then, and you were selling enough volume of houses to understand how the MLS system operated, and you built the MLS system. In my case, it was Realtors Association of Hamilton Burlington, the very first computerized MLS system in North America. That's why prices have skyrocketed. Those work-from-home sales stopped the $100,000 and $200,000 house from selling, and thus the average price in each sales chain was substantially higher, approximately to 20 to 30%, depending on the month in question, that LSTAR reported those house price gains in London. Same for every single MLS system across Canada, by the way, folks.
Years ago, others began to warn about a housing bubble popping. Why are these forecasts so wrong?
Their forecasts aren't wrong, Jim. Okay, so anybody who has warned about a housing bubble is not wrong. What they were wrong about was trusting stakeholders wouldn't do things to inflate the bubble further. They trusted that organized real estate wouldn't revise what they counted each month. They trusted that the benchmark price, a brand new creation, by the way, post-2008, we happened in 2008, folks, wouldn't have impacted the buyer's mindset. You can't blame the people forecasting a housing bubble that they didn't think that the realtors would tell them the truth. You can't blame those who were warning about a housing bubble popping, that the Bank of Canada would continue to drop mortgage rates, that the OSFI would come in and knock off a whole bunch of not as wealthy buyers in 2017 and again in 2018, artificially inflating the average price. You can't blame those who warned about a housing bubble for not understanding. The government doesn't understand how housing markets work. CMHC doesn't understand how housing markets work. The Bank of Canada doesn't understand how housing markets work. The big bank economists don't understand how housing markets work. And 99.99% of all realtors today have no idea how the housing market works, let alone how an MLS system is designed to function. You can't blame those people from that. Their analysis was spot on. They warned of housing bubbles. The housing bubbles they warned about were true. The only thing that has happened is that the housing bubble has been allowed to inflate bigger, which we all know means those who have been called wrong up until now, we know some of them, Jim, are going to be found out to be truth tellers, truth sayers, instead of the other people who have misled the Canadian public now for the last 7 years.
Ross, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thanks for having me on, Jim.
My guest has been homeownership consultant Ross Kay from awealthyhomeowner.ca. If you have any questions for Ross, you can send them to info@housestreet.com. Find us on Twitter @HouseStreet, our YouTube channel, Talk Digital Network, We're also on Facebook. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.